Storage tech as a whole can be one of the most daunting things in the technical world of survival Minecraft to understand. Storage tech can be seen as overly complicated for one's mind or even impossible to learn. But today I will walk you through the steps to design your own personal storage system in this one video. The way I go about designing and creating a storage system is very personalized for my own personal workflow, so it is best to find your own pace and style of making your storage system. ShadyJ has a playlist similar to what this video will be about, but is in much more depth in this video, which is only to function as a guide. Cubic Meter also has something similar to this, but mine will be more focused on those new to storage tech. But before one gets started in storage tech, one has to have a basic understanding of the terms to go about designing a storage system. These are the most basic terms that we will use for the basics of this video. If you want more information on the terms, look on the Storage Tech Discord server. There's a dictionary for all the storage tech terms. This right here is a toggle state. It's basically a piston spitting its block to represent a state of being. The reason why it's not used as much or it's looked down upon is just because it is hard to reset if something goes wrong. This here is a one wide tileable slice because it is one wide and it does conflict with any other slices, both being the exact same. This here is one wide AB tileable where the two slices are not the same, but they both perform the same function. Now you can do something like two wide AB tileable where it's two that is one circuit, but is not conflicting with a circuit off to the left or the right of it. This is a multi-item sorter. It is shown by being able to sort multiple items into one slice, and generally a multi-item sorter has a key layout which will pull from here to be able to decide if that item should go in the slice or not. This one was MIS 4.2 designed by DatNerd, which I said wrong in my previous video, sorry about that. But yeah, this is the most common multi-item sorter you'll see, but there are other ones out there. This is dustless right here, using the ability to not use dust to perform an operation in redstone. This is using dust because it uses the redstone wire updating to be able to perform an operation. But there's also this, which uses a dust, but it doesn't use the update of the dust itself, only the redirection to perform an operation. So this is still considered dustless. If you want to know more about this, I'll leave a video in the description that has more in-depth knowledge on how all of this works. This is known as local, where each slice is a independent circuit of being able to performing a task. So each one of these is able to be performed separately, and they can be turned off separately. This is known as global, which all slices are done under one operation of, for instance, this one would be this clock right here, in which all can be disabled from the same circuit. UI, or user interface, is the way the player interacts with the system regardless to what the inner workings of the system is. For instance, this is a chest hall. We interact with it by going through each one of these, being able to open chests and all of that. But if we come over here, here's the input, which is another UI, which we are able to put in and out any items and have them sort. We can press this button to start the system, and we also have a way of stopping the system. There are a few things to keep in mind when getting started. First, you do not have to reinvent the wheel. More often than not, there is a specific design perfect for your need. Now, does that mean you shouldn't ever try and design stuff yourself? No, it would better help you later down the line knowing its strengths and weaknesses. Also, going on the idea of don't reinvent the wheel, there's probably a storage solution out there that fulfills your demands. I don't suggest designing the entirety of a new storage system unless you feel like you truly don't like any of them. What I'm saying is that storage systems are still modifiable. You can change some of their functionality to better fit you. The decision of deciding the functionality of a storage system is often overlooked, which may circle back around to affect the user of the system. A system should be able to fulfill the maximum needs of the player or players if you play on a server. Having a smaller server does not mean you should not have a system bigger than the large technical servers. If you prefer to centralize all your server resources, it is often best to have a storage system that supports such a playstyle. A storage system is not something to stress your server on. Speed is not always a deal breaker in a storage system. The newest one I designed is best suited for a larger player base who is often running it, so it needs to be faster to keep up with the input. But, for instance, my first storage system, which I'm running on Kayzm, is only hopper speed, and we have never run into an issue of it not keeping up. One of the final things you may want to consider is the ease of use. For instance, in the designing of the system, I have to keep in mind its ability to be broken by a player. A good example is the box display I'm using. It is one of my favorite UIs of any box display, but there is no activation nor is there a local auto startup. Originally, there would be a button going to the comparator, but pressing it immediately after activation would break it. So my solution was one node block to attempt to start all displays. This change means it will only break if a player manually unloads it while it's activating, which I presume no player is stupid enough to do. The first thing you want to decide is what type of storage you want. For now, we will assign names for each type of storage to better easily explain what we are going for. This is chest sort. It is usually made up of 8 slices and can hold 8 different items. This one is modified to do 7. This is box display. Usually has an accessible box loader and a accessible display with the ability to access normal shulker boxes of that item. This is multi-item sorter. It sorts multiple items into the same slice. I have explained it before, so I won't explain it again. These are the most common types of storage slices you will see because of their repeatability. We are not only limited to this sort of storage UI at all though. For instance, in my new storage, I have assigned the top chests as boxes for an overall higher storage capacity. Now, and I will state this again, storage tech is very subjective, so don't feel hard stuck to a certain UI and such. If you don't like it, find a better one, or if you can't find one that you like, modify or design one to what you want. A storage slice will help dictate the general complexity and size of your storage system. This can also affect the ease of use to get to items and in worst case, make locating lots of items a nightmare. With this in mind, it is now best to come up with a very rough layout of the chest holes. Personally, I like using colored shulker boxes to represent the storage slices with the key to get a very basic visualization of the storage. If you are wanting to add a bulk to the storage, I would suggest finding a place to fit it in and also adding on to this, making multiple possible layouts of what you may like. Now it is time for one of the most tedious parts of storage tech, categorizing items. I categorize items into colored boxes as shown previously when coming up with the layout. It is useful for figuring out how many of the item exists in that category. Keep in mind how much of the item you will have and will hope to have running through your storage system. You will also always have a lot more cobblestone than ink sacks, so categorize accordingly. If you want to take it a step further and possibly save you time down the road, put items you will probably have next to each other in the same box. I didn't do this when I was designing this system, which probably wasted an hour. With the categorization done, revisit the layout you have of your storage and see if it will work with your system. You may have to move around items to better fit it in or add more slices of a certain type. The input system is definitely one of the most important systems in your storage. It is the one you'll be interacting with the most, so having it fit your needs is very important. Personally, I don't like to have to split boxes and items and prefer to toss them into a chest and call it good. But some people don't mind and like the smaller interface a manual box loader offers. This will also lead to what type of unloading array you are going to use. Some servers and single player worlds are fine with a simple hopper speed item input, but some have hundreds of thousands of items running through the system every week, so a proper unloading array like a parallel unloader will suit your needs. There isn't very much to offer when it comes to unloading arrays, so it is generally what you prefer. It is also around the time you want to think about what information about the system the player should be receiving. For instance, is the chunk loading on? Is the entire system on? Is the storage low on shulker boxes? Is the system paused? And so on. There's a lot more information a player can implement into the system, but these are the pretty basic ones. Now, having the general idea for the system in mind and a few components laid out, it is now time to actually build the storage system. I would suggest using Ligmatica to paste in components for it instead of World Edit, because it tends to mess up redstone components such as Rails, so you may want to use it if you aren't. It is also useful if you are still on the fence between designs, because you can get a much more vivid visual between types of layouts. This is easily the longest part of your storage creation process and most likely place to make a mistake, so take your time putting all the pieces together. Review each piece of your storage system separately and together. Also, leave room for hopper locking, even if they are covered with a composter. Just try and lock as many as you can. Logically, you would have had some thought put into hopper locking when in the designing process of the storage slices, so that will help reduce complexity. The first thing to keep in mind is to make backups. Testing the storage is honestly one of the most stressful parts of storage tech, and to be honest, things are bound to go wrong. I suggest testing each piece of the storage system separately, such as hulls, multi-item sorting, unstackable sorter, input, and unloading array. Test for all possible scenarios that can pop up. It is generally good to keep in mind that what can go wrong will go wrong. Testing the system should be happening throughout the entirety of the designing process, but it is especially apparent now since you will need to run a full stress test on the system. Even now, during the creation of the script of this video, I figured out a way to slightly improve the function of the system. By adding a simple burnout clock, I am able to make the ability to start the system a bit faster, so the player doesn't have to keep it loaded while it starts up. Peripherals are very subjective based on what you want. A furnace array, a crafting station, brewing stands, do whatever you will want. You can even put a cobblestone generator for all I care. It makes no difference to anyone except you and whoever you are playing with. Now, for actual looks, good luck, because I can barely make a house look like a house, so yeah, have fun with that. It's always you. Keep falling for you.